Pardon?
All
right. It is 6 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the City Council business meeting of Tuesday, July 14th. Won't you please join me in a pledge of allegiance as we start our meeting? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could we start with a roll call, please?
Westwood,
Here.
Battles,
Here.
Daniel, here. Davis, here. Browning,
Yes.
Rude, Tupin, here.
All right, so we have 5 members present. However, it still requires 4 affirmative votes for any resolution or ordinance to pass. Just reiteration of the rules. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second. Have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Battles. Discussion at the table.
The only thing is we do have resolution number 3746 that is up for action tonight that was not,
There's
There.
actually 2, because 3747 we talked about, we didn't
Oh,
have
yeah?
a copy of it in there, so there are 2
there we
of
go.
those.
There's 2 of them.
But good,
So,
good call-outs.
but we have talked about them before. It just wasn't in
Okay.
a lot of detail during council meeting.
Any other discussion at the table? Hearing none, can I get a roll call, please?
Battles,
Yes.
Daniel, yes. Davis, yes. Browning,
Yes.
Tupin, yes.
5-0, the motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 23rd, 2026.
I move to approve the minutes of June 23rd, 2026.
I'll second.
Motion from Councilmember Ronning, second from Councilmember Daniels. I have a question. We had an additional meeting.
Yeah, I didn't get to.
Okay, so we'll have that next time, if you'll make a note of that, so we do get to that. Thank you. Any other discussion at the table? Hearing none, can I get a roll call?
Battles,
Yes.
Daniel, yes. Davis, yes. Browning,
Yes.
Tupin, yes.
5-0, the motion carries. I'll entertain a motion for warrants payable.
I move to approve warrants payable in the amount of $1,822,070.67.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Daniels. Discussion at the table.
The big check was paying COP Construction over $1 million, so.
Okay, and that was for which project specifically?
The water rehab.
That's the water rehab that we have the
And
bond
then-
action on a little bit later
Yeah,
today.
and then
so.
we had an EDA grant draw also for $428,000. So, I mean, that's pretty much the majority. Everything else was standard, normal things, so.
All right, I will mention for the public's information, that just as you come inside the front door of City Hall, as you walk out, you'll see on the left side of the door, there's a box there that has all of the budget documents and other public documents that are out there, including our draft budget for the new year. I didn't see that we had a warrants
It's in there.
in there? Okay, so if there's something that ought to be there that it's not, holler, it's maybe somebody came by and borrowed it and didn't return it, and we just need to be aware of it so we can replace it. But don't take those, just come in and look at them there. All right. Hearing no other discussion at the table, can I get a roll call, please?
Battles,
Yes.
Daniel, yes. Davis, yes. Browning,
Yes.
Tupin,
Yes. 5-0, motion carries. Mayor's comments. The first thing I have a very, very important announcement to make. Following last week's meeting, there was much historical research done. I am here to report on how Marcus Daly and Henry Villard pronounced their names. And it is Daly and Villard, let the record show. So the discussion,
Dally and
is-
Lard.
yeah, it is Daly and Villard. All right. While we are talking about historical elements, I would like to call Mike and Jeff Warner up to the front. Mike? Do you want to grab the...
I will.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Public, and I guess public there too. Tonight we're here to recognize Jeff Warner for 18 years of dedicated service. Reaching this milestone is accomplished in itself, but what truly stands out for Jeff is the way he owned his position. In the Department of Public Works, we have a lot of different arms: water, sewer, streets, parks, everything. And if I can get an employee that truly owns their position, they're very valuable to me. Jeff was one of those. Under Jeff, the facility, he managed the wastewater treatment facility. It ran, in the 2.5 years that I was here, it ran smooth. We had a few problems where he would call them and we'd fix them, but most time he took care of it. He owned it. I never had a missed sample. I never had a report that was wrong to DEQ. The only violations we ever had were because of environmental conditions. He truly owned that position. When his retirement became apparent, he worked with Eric Carlson to train him, to get him to own the position. So he left it in a good place. And on behalf of Public Works and hopefully the city, I'd just like to thank you for your hard work and commitment. Thank you for owning it. It's my pleasure to give you a plaque that we have made by Back Valley Metals.
Oh, nice.
Harley, I don't understand.
You have to stand up and get a picture.
Yay.
You have the old Red Lodge logo, 'cause that's where it was when you started. Yeah. So, thank you.
I know, that's really cool.
Enjoy this next chapter.
Yay.
Well, I will.
Thank you.
And I would just like to add my 2 cents on, I don't know that Jeff necessarily sees himself as a leader, but I am here to tell you that I have seen and witnessed an impact wider than just himself. The example you set, that owning it is contagious, and you're just do it kind of, and leading by example. Like I said, your impact was felt a lot wider than just your position. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy this next stage.
Oh, for sure.
If you get bored and need to come play in the sewer ponds, let us know. We can arrange something.
If we call with a question, you have to answer.
Thank you, Jeff. And then we're gonna excuse Mike and Jeff. They're gonna go celebrate.
Yay.
Thank you.
All right. Also on the agenda, so upcoming events, the bike rally has started this week. That had been previously approved. We also did just get the approval for the car show, which will actually be next week, 24th and 25th. And also the approval for the fun run in September on September 5th. So those are done, and a special thanks to Lonnie and her office for getting those done. Just by way of announcement, if there are those in the community who have not attended one of the meetings, I know they've gone to the chamber, they've gone to the Business Alliance. The Small Business Association has come to town. They have some loans that are available due to the wind event that happened last winter, and it didn't happen in Carbon County, but we're an adjacent county. And the short version is, if there are businesses that can show that there was an impact from that and they need to do a 0% loan for a year to help kind of recover from that, those are available. The packets are available at the front office, and we can get you in touch with those folks if you need to. So I just wanted to mention that in case there's folks who hadn't heard that out there. The McNeil Trail, go ahead.
O'Neill.
Oh, sorry, Siri, fix that. Thank you. Greg, my apologies if you're out there. The O'Neill Trail, we will be closing on that this week. We've gone down. I've actually signed several of the documents that are involved. There's a couple more that are involved. By way of information, and I've already run it through the channels. The closing was just under $5,000. A significant portion of that was the survey, which we also required. That was like $2,500. That was the lion's share of that. But $5,000, under $5,000 for a 1+ acre parcel of land is pretty good. So we'll be finalizing on that. And then Mike is working with the engineers, and we'll keep you posted as that gets ready to move into the next steps. But we'll hopefully close that up this week. Along those lines of projects, Red Lodge Ice had turned in their request for the PAR. There was a meeting today in the resolution that we passed, along with outlining all the requirements that we wanted to address. We said that PAR would be approved by 2 representatives of the city before it was handed over and the work begun. Today, Mike Maples and Jody were able to attend that. Chelsea had some last-minute stuff come up, so she was not able to attend. They went through and basically reviewed that. There was a couple of edits that Mike had identified to add to it. But that, and we gave them a copy of the MOU, so it basically says this is what council needs. So they will go ahead and start that process.
And just for clarification, there will still be a kickoff meeting after that engineer has been hired.
Okay? Yeah,
Yeah.
we can do that. That they'll come here and,
Yep.
yeah, I do not see a problem with that.
Yeah, just
Okay.
making sure.
Will we have any kind of copy of what will be included, like what was passed along?
Yeah, we can relay, there's, like I said, there was 2 edits that need to be added to it, but we can get that added. We can get that shared with council when those edits are done.
It was actually the resolution that we passed on March 10th.
Yeah.
And there were the deliverables.
Mhm.
Those are what are in there.
Okay, so
in
that
that-
was what
in
was
that
there.
MOU,
It's not different
yeah.
than that.
No,
Okay.
when we met today, that's what we said, make sure these are in there.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah, and this
Because
is
that's
just
what
for the
council said we
RFP,
wanted.
not for the actual PAR. So this is
Gotcha.
to hire the person to then.
So,
put together the
so
PAR.
let me add a clarification. So they are not doing an RFP
Okay,
by virtue of the fact that it's well under $80,000.
okay,
And so that was one of my concerns, was how do we still meet the requirement that we had if the city's gonna sign off on what you're asking for? So even though they're just going with a single firm, we still did that review.
okay.
Am I?
Yep.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
All right. The next thing I'd like to announce is not necessarily a happy announcement, but I'm happy to see we've got folks online, and I hope that this information will get out there. But by way of information, we have had to kill 6 bears in town so far this year due to predatory behavior on humans. And I think it's worth mentioning that bears don't get killed because they get into trash cans, but once they get into trash cans and they start following people down the alleys or charging people or trying to get into houses, it becomes a little bit bigger deal. One of the things that was a little bit frustrating, my understanding is that all 6 of those were traced back to deliberate feeding. So it was not just trash, it was people. I can't say if they were people specifically feeding the bears or if it was people. I remember hearing them talk about people going out and dumping piles of seed for deer and stuff, but the bears were coming in. And there are fines being issued, but the general feedback is $135 fine, which is kind of what they're averaging, is somehow not convincing people to stop that behavior. So I'm helping people understand that when you train a bear to be dependent on human and that bear behaves in a way that's not compatible with living with humans, the bear ends up dying. And so hopefully, as a community, we can kind of work and limit that down. This is a really interesting year. Bears are everywhere. It's not just Red Lodge. I was over to the park and it was hot and the bears were still out. I don't know what it is about the year, but there's a lot out there. So be aware of that. Also, kind of along that line, YWS has free training on use of bear spray. They have inert cans and they can train people on that down there. So you can call down there and get signed up. And furthermore, one of the grants they have in that bear program, they are offering vouchers for a free can of bear spray. So if we have service workers in town that are walking back late at night or early in the mornings and a can of bear spray is outside of reach, please reach out and get more details from them as well. But a thank you to YWS and what they're doing to kind of help. And I would encourage everybody, I mean, we've had grizzly bears walking down my street up on the golf course. I don't think there's a street in town that I'm not aware of that we haven't seen a bear walking down lately. So if you're walking your dogs late at night, not a bad idea to take your bear spray. It works for moose too. Any other questions or updates requested from council that I may have missed? All right. Hearing none, what we will do is we'll go ahead and switch to public comment. This is the first of multiple opportunities the public will have to address council. There's one at the beginning of the meeting, which we're just going into, and one at the end, which are open to the public to comment on any matter within the council's jurisdiction. And then we have 4 actions up for action tonight, ordinances and resolutions, and we will do public comment on a per action item basis as well. With that, the rules are on the table. You have 3 minutes. Please start by stating your name, address your comment to the table, and remember this is not a discussion or back and forth. This is just public comment and an opportunity to be heard. Go ahead and open public comment at this point. Anyone in the room? Seeing none in the room, let me look to online, calling for public comment. Jeff, I do see a unmuted mic. Is that intentional for public comment?
No,
Yeah,
sorry. No.
No worries. I just want to make sure I'm doing my part to give the public an opportunity to comment. Looking for hands raised, unmuted mics, cameras turning on. Calling for public comment twice. Public comment 3 times. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment. Again, there will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. With that, I will entertain a motion for ordinance number 973.
I move to approve ordinance number 973, first amended, an ordinance of the City of Red Lodge, Montana to update section 4.1.16 solid waste of the Public Health and Safety Red Lodge City Municipal Code. First reading,
Second reading.
second reading, public hearing. Yeah, we don't want to do first reading again.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ronnie, and I'll take the second from Councilmember Tupin. Discussion at the table before we go to public comment.
I just will say we did have a brief discussion in Public Works. We kind of had a request to, or more of a concern from business owners that are dealing one-on-one with Republic Services. They have issues with pickups sometimes of their dumpsters and emptying the dumpsters. And, you know, basically the zero tolerance for overflowing dumpsters is their concern, and immediately getting a fine for it. But our discussion kind of centered more around that it's not just black bears that we have in town now, it's grizzly bears. And the committee felt, the 2 of us that were there, that that the city does need to have a zero tolerance on having bear attractants out at this point. And we did suggest strongly that perhaps the Bear Committee or the city could send a letter to Republic Services letting them know that we have passed an ordinance that has some teeth in it, and that there will be zero tolerance for these overflowing dumpsters. So when it's they really need to not miss pickups and work with our business owners more in helping them follow the letter of this law. Did I capture that okay with what we talked about?
The one additional action item that I was given at that meeting was also to reach out to some of the other potential vendors that can help serve the commercial operators. I did leave a message with McKinsey along with my phone number. I have not heard back or talked to them yet to find out what their interest or what those are. One of the things that came out of that meeting is that it might be beneficial to have a little competition for our commercial operators to help get the response that they needed, particularly when there was a Friday or a Monday that were not available for pickup because of either holidays or unplanned things such as snow events or truck breakdowns and things like that. But I will add that I did agree with the committee's idea that we didn't go back and fuzzy up our rules, because we thought that was something they could raise a concern with the judge if they had a concern, if they got a fine that they thought was outside of their control. But I think the more that you get a fine, the more likely are you to figure out how to make it in your control. Because once you figure out how it's in your control, then you know the person who can fix it, so. Any discussion at the table before we go to public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and open public comment, specifically in relation to ordinance 973 and the solid waste. Looking inside the room. Seeing none, going online, looking for public comment. Calling for public comment, going twice. 3 times, seeing no mics, raised hands, or cameras. We'll go ahead and close the public comment on 973 and bring discussion back to the table. Any further discussion before we take a vote? Lonnie, can I get a roll call, please?
Paddle?
Yes.
Daniel? Yes. Davis? Yes. Ronnie?
Yes.
Tupin?
All right. 5-0. So 30 days from this day, that ordinance will go into effect. I'll entertain a motion for ordinance number 960.
I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 960, second amended as ordinance of the city of Red Lodge, Montana to repeal and replace ordinance 928 and 928A 151 amendment and municipal code pertaining to event permits and regulations for the use of city-owned property as governed in Title 8, Chapter 8, use of city-owned property. Second reading.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Tupin, a second from Councilmember Daniels. Any discussion at the table before we go for public comment? All right. Hearing none, let's go ahead and open public comment related to the use of city-owned land. Looking in the room, seeing nothing, I'll call for public comment, including online, going once, twice, 3 times. We'll go ahead and close that and bring discussion back to the table. Any further discussion before we make a vote? Lonnie, could I get a roll call, please?
Paddle?
Yes.
Daniel? Yes. Davis? Yes. Ronnie?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
5-0, the motion passes. I'll entertain a motion for resolution 3746.
Find it, sorry. I got buried in the,
Scrolling,
scrolling. Sorry, that's just a lot.
Yeah, that's a long one, it's a long chunk right there.
Okay. Here we go. Holy crap.
It starts again like.
There we go, I found it. 996, wait.
3746 is what we're looking for.
Sorry.
This be, I move to approve resolution number 3746, resolution relating to $3,154,000 water system revenue bonds, DNRC Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Program, consisting of $1,577,000 subordinate lien taxable series 2026A bond and $1,577,000 series 2026B bond, authorizing the issuance and fixing the terms and conditions thereof.
I will second.
Second.
Thank you.
I have a motion from Councilmember Daniels, and I think I heard Councilmember Tupin, the loudest on that. We'll go for a second. What I'm going to do, before we go to just general discussion at the table, I'm going to ask Lonnie if you would provide just kind of a brief overview. I think everybody's familiar, but for the public as well.
Did you guys read the whole 62 pages?
No.
All of it, yeah.
So I don't have like an actual resolution in the packet.
So this bond is for
Yeah.
the water rehab project that's going on right now.
Mhm.
So I believe it's the A bond, the 2026 A bond. That will be the total amount of the bond. The B bond is the forgiveness one. So, usually with those forgiveness ones, the city doesn't pay on them. But within the bond, it has to be the total, because we are gonna spend the full amount. So, pretty standard.
3 pages, yeah.
Our bond counsel that we've used for all of our other projects and bonds. They're pretty good at writing these stuff, so it's kind of a lowdown on them.
All right.
But did I, and you did address that we have some forgiveness with this one, you within that?
Yeah,
Okay.
the B loan.
Yep.
both of them, 15, but for the B bond, it's the same amount.
Any questions for Lonnie from the table? Let's go ahead and open public comment related to Resolution 3746 and the Water Systems Revenue Bond. Seeing no motion in the room, looking to online for cameras, unmuted mics, or hands. Calling for public comment a second time on the resolution, and calling for public comment a third time. Seeing no action, I'll go ahead and close public comment. We'll bring discussion back at the table. Any further discussion before we take action? Wading through the enthusiastic response, can I get a roll call, please?
Battle?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Ronnie?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
All right, 5-0, that motion carries. I'll entertain a motion for Resolution 3747.
I move to approve resolution number 3747, authorizing the mayor to sign contract for recruitment services with Prothman.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Daniels. I will just take a moment and introduce and answer some of the questions that I answered for the admin team. So, Council may recall that we received feedback from 2 different companies, both of which involved Prothman in the name. I had follow-up calls with references provided by both companies. The 2 contracts were fairly similar. One of the things, it could have as much been a coin toss. One of the things that played a factor was the timeliness in which I got a response back. After they said they were going to get a response back, I kind of made that as a decision. And Prothman that I selected is who we have used before. Having said that, the other Prothman was also part of that Prothman when we have used them previously. I will tell you that I had one more referral call after I had made the selection and put everything in the packet that might have tilted it the other direction if that call had come in earlier. But mostly what it was process and some ideas. Some companies here in Montana that have used them, and basically we're going to steal the ideas from all those folks. Once we get this done, the job description is not done yet, so they will come and talk to council and get council's input on what that job description is, which is feedback we've gotten from council. And then we will also work with the league and Dan Clark. I said league, I meant extension, Montana Extension, to make sure that we're good, as well as the attorneys, to make sure that everything is good there. I am going to have one additional conversation with Dan for guidance before I sign this, even after getting council's approval to do so. I'm going to double check before we pull the trigger and spend any money. I'm going to make sure that we're covered and going the direction that we've understood correctly the guidance we've received in the past. So I will offer that and I'm happy to answer any other questions about how I selected that one from there. Councilmember Davis?
So I don't know anything about the cost associated with these things, but is 16.5, is that pretty standard?
This one is 16.5, the other was 18.
Okay.
And then on top of that, there's some additional expenses. So if they do hard copy mailings, there's an expense for that. If there are travel expenses, if we end up bringing a candidate in for in-person stuff. So there's some expenses that we have direct input on how much of those we spend. So there will be a cost above the 16.5.
Do we have a limit or anything that max allowable?
We haven't set it. I will work with Lonnie and probably work with council to make sure that we don't go too far over. I don't expect that to be more than a few thousand. Do you know how much have we spent, like in the past when we brought in Peter Italiano, and I think Chief Wells was.
It was Hibbler and Peter, the Italiano, that we
Okay.
used Crossman for. With Peter, it was over 17,000, and that was back in,
That was the base fee plus the additional expenses?
that was the total amount,
Yeah,
yeah. And
okay.
then with Hibbler, it was it was less than that, but that was also 2 years before Peter.
Yeah,
So
10, 15 years ago.
So,
Was that actually 2 years before Peter?
it was a year before Peter. So
Really?
Hibbler was done first,
awful.
and then we used
And-
it again.
Yeah, and the coin toss part of it was going with the company that we'd gone before. So,
I do have, so just going into this piece, because my only concern with this is I'm more than happy to bring in a qualified candidate and pay accordingly to bring in a qualified candidate. I think I'm just still concerned on what this position is, how it fits within our charter, and how it fits within our hierarchy. And I think, from what I gather from reading through this, is that there's going to be a position profile development, and I'm imagining within that, we're gonna see that position description really fleshed out, and we won't, that's my one thing, is I wanna make sure that that position is actually what the community is expecting and what the council is expecting.
yep, and that's part of why I'm waiting to finalize what that description looks like and have them tell us what we need to pay for that description, is that will be a conversation that full council will be involved with, whether we have that as an additional meeting, whether we can do that with that consultant being remote, or if we want to incur the additional cost of having them come. I know sometimes they have folks in Montana already, so, but those will be conversations we have. And again, I may involve the extension within that conversation as well, just to help make sure that we are doing everything right. I will say that in the homework that I've done with Dan and multiple cities that have the same form of government and we are, the guidance has seemed pretty clear, but like I said, before we pull the trigger, I just want to get that double check.
Yeah, specifically that, and then again, just extremely transparent for the public as well as for city staff, because again, I think that from what I am gathering, this is a substantial change, but also it might be kind of a reflection back to what we've been doing in the past. I do feel that 16.5 is a very large expense, especially when we hear how broke we are all the time. So I just feel like that's worth mentioning, that this, I'm hoping that this turns to be a very, very good investment, because I don't know, I just hate to see the government, or our government, waste taxpayer dollars for a Hibbler. A liability.
Your comments are heard.
Yeah, yeah, so that'd be great. And then, the only other piece on this, I had one other thing, and I can't remember what it was now. I got distracted by that guy.
By you?
Yeah, by my own witty banter just being, so I do think that if we could set a cap, that would be, preferred. Yeah, because even though this is cheaper than the other bid, that doesn't mean it's cheap.
Yeah.
That's expensive.
It's expensive. So
Do
then,
you have an amendment you'd like to propose about what sort of an amendment on a cap on that? That if we exceed that, we'll come back to council?
I would like to make an amendment that if, additional expenses exceed $1,000, it must come back to council for review.
I'm not hearing a second yet. I'll offer my thinking is that's probably low. I would think if you did 5, I can see that. But 1,000 isn't even gonna cover
Is that
printing.
21.5? Is that something that the council's comfortable with?
No, we're,
$5,000?
yeah,
Maybe 2,500 or so.
yeah.
I would agree with that.
2,500, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
5,000
I-
seems like a lot to me.
Yeah.
Well, and it depends on if they're having to fly candidates in
Well,
and pay for,
Well, I feel like that's when they would come back to us and be like, do we want to do that?
exactly, that's why I think
Okay.
it's worth saying,
So,
hey, it
will
comes
we-
back and we,
okay, so
Yeah.
would we have we could have to have a special meeting sometimes?
Or we could do it, I don't, and this is not,
it's gonna be a
this is
$1,000.
not a rate.
No,
This
I know,
is,
absolutely, but,
And one of the things both of the companies said is if you don't get a candidate that you're happy with and you like, take advantage of the fact that we do this all again for free, so.
Yeah.
Councilmember Davis?
What's the time frame turnaround for this process, once it's signed and stuff, and once we sent all this out, like, is that within a year? Or
I would say within 3 to 6 months,
do they need
it
to-
should be completed.
Do we need to have that in writing with them or not?
no.
No,
time frame at all? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
and I didn't ask, my guess is, and Lonnie, you've worked with them, my guess is they bill when the process is done, or do they bill up front?
There was quite a few, like, claims that that might have been for the additional. So they might do might have done like half up front, and then when the process is over, they get the rest, and then, but the additional expenses they bill as they,
occur.
yeah.
Okay.
I'd have to look back, but I kind of think that's how it is.
So I've got,
So
So if we wanna do 2,500, can I amend my motion to be 2,500?
you can just make another motion, because nobody seconded that one.
I make a motion that if expenses exceed, or to amend the resolution, that if expenses were to exceed $2,500, that it comes back to the city council for approval.
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion from Councilmember Tupin and a second from Councilmember Ronning to cap additional expenses at $2,500. If it exceeds that, it comes back to a council for additional approval.
Yep.
Further discussion at the table? All right. This is not final action, so let's go ahead and do a roll call on the amendment.
Battles?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Ronnie?
Yes.
Ruth? Oh, sorry. Tupin? I lied.
Yes.
Okay, 5-0, motion to amend carries. Back to the main motion. Further discussion at the table before public comment? All right, hearing none, let me go ahead and open up public comment, specific to Resolution 3747. Seeing no activity in the room, I'm looking to online. Unmuted mics, raised hands, video cameras would all indicate a desire to speak. Calling for public comment twice. Public comment 3 times. Go ahead and close the public comment, bring it back to the table. Any further discussion? Go
I
ahead.
just wouldn't, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay.
I think it was you.
It's me, okay, I thought you were raising your hand. Okay. I will just say, if our last one that we did, was back in 2015, you said, or 17, and it was 18,000, that it very well could end up coming back to us to increase it.
Yeah,
Just because
I expect that it will, but I
10
also
years
expect that we
ago.
will have a better understanding of what and why, and we will let them come and say, here's why we think you should spend an extra couple of thousand. They're not gonna be making any more money at that point, they're just gonna be helping us try to get better results.
Oh, just for example, I don't necessarily need to be paying for first class for someone to come out.
Like you said before.
That's probably not a good match if that's a requirement. Yeah. It was interesting, I mentioned the secondary conversation I had, after I'd already made a decision. I had somebody get back with me. And one of the things that was very helpful there, they had talked about bringing the individuals out, and they actually had a public meeting, as well. And I kind of remember some of those with the past candidates we've had in Red Lodge as well. And they had a specific example of somebody that they had been looking at, and then when they got in front of the public podium and they had a chance to show their stuff, they made a decision to go a different direction, and they felt that was a really good last-minute catch. And so that was and one of the things that they offered was that the consultant had really kind of guided them into that process and that opportunity, and so I just made a note and said, no matter who we go with, we're going to make sure they're doing that for us. So, all right, hearing no further discussion at the table, can I get a roll call, please?
Battles?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Ronnie?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
All right, 5-0, motion carries. And again, I will, prior to executing that agreement, I will check in with Dan one more time before we do that. But otherwise, I will consider that I have council's blessing to proceed with that. That concludes the action portion of our agenda. For the public that may be new, the second part of our agenda is kind of a work session where we are reviewing and going over things that will come up for action in future sessions, which is part of why that first part of the meeting seems to click and go a little bit quicker, because we try very hard to make sure that we have talked about and publicly vetted everything long before we get around to taking action on that. With that, we will start with admin and finance, and for that, we will look to committee chair Ronning to guide us through that discussion.
Well, first up on the agenda is the update on the amendment to the rural fire department contract, and this was to take part of the capital outside of the general fund and have it come out of resort tax. We didn't really talk about it too much because I believe that things are still under negotiations and nothing's really changed since last time, unless it has in the last couple days.
No, so I do not yet have a final decision, but we are still, based on input, we are still proceeding as far as our budget preparations, with the working assumption that we'll be able to pay part of our fire obligation out of resort tax. That is not finalized, but we'll keep you posted. But that's the update that I have at this point.
So, that kind of brings us into the next one, the budget review. We did go over that. The budget that is in the packet, has a date of 6/29/26 on it. Lonnie, when she did this, she still put the fire department contract completely out of the general fund. So just so you are aware that we are hoping that that will change. And we do not know the value of the mill yet, so we really don't know what that obligation will be at this time. It's just a placeholder. So, this is, not just the general fund, it's the entire draft budget, correct? Of the expenses, I guess I should say.
Yeah, the smaller fund bid wasn't included in there, but the main ones, the general resort tax, the water, sewer, building, solid waste, those are in there.
And again, there's a copy of all of those, in the folder in front. And Lonnie, do we have this draft posted online as well?
No, I'll have to put it on the,
Okay.
under the budget.
So if you'll give us 24 hours, there will also be, if you go on to budgets, there'll also be an electronic copy so that the public at large can go in and look at that. And if you see things that you have questions about, please feel free to ask. You can either reach out and ask staff, or you can come to council meetings, specifically the admin meeting, which does not meet until 7:30 a.m. on Mondays. And you can come to any of those. We are looking to, this budget could go through some flex as we have discussions and conversations. Between now, we will be approving this at the final meeting in August. So that's 3 more meetings past this meeting, and we will not actually get our numbers to work with until the first meeting in August, as far as like what the mill value and stuff is. So part of this is being very familiar with all the moving pieces in case there has to be some last minute shuffling, and things that are there. And we'll do our best to answer questions. We'll take public input on everything. I guess I want to manage the expectation a little bit that we take input. We're not going to have 3,000 individual budget managers.
Right.
So the way the process works is we collect all of that input. As mayor, I collect input from council, from staff, from the Resort Task Committee, from all the different committees. I prepare a budget that then gets approved by council. Okay.
So, no, that's okay. And I just wanted people to be aware that the budget is broken up into sections. There's the general fund, which is our property taxes and other fee type things that and other money we get from the state. So that is our general fund, and that's the one we're always talking about having to really, watch what we're doing with it at this time and trying to make that work. What we normally do is when we review this in admin is we look in the final column where it compares a percentage of what the old budget was to the new budget. And so you can kind of see fairly easily just by skimming down there if there's some big increases or decreases. So, those always kind of stick out right away, and then you might question that. And then we have the resort tax budget, and with that, the Resort Tax Committee did give us recommendations, and I believe we're all included in this so far. Doesn't mean that they'll still be in there, but right now, because this is a draft budget, right now, all of those recommendations are in here. It also has some pretty, normal big expenditures, like for the pool. The running of the pool and paying for the pool are all in there under resort tax. We have the building code enforcement, which is Brian Hanna's department.
Yeah, and it's, so a lot of these funds, when you talk about water and sewer and trash and building, they're what they call enterprise funds. And they are like self-contained little budget units.
Yes.
So we can take money out of the general fund and put it into those if we had tons of leftover money. We cannot take money out of those to do that. So that's why a lot of the discussion tends to be around the general fund and the resort tax, because that is the fund that we
Your-
have some control over.
What you pay for your water goes into the water fund, what you pay for your sewer goes into the sewer fund, what you pay for your solid waste goes into the solid waste department.
What you pay for your building inspector
So it
goes into the building inspector fund.
yes. And we cannot touch that for any other project. So just kind of an overview of what you're reading when you're reading the budget. So, you know, I would recommend everyone, like I say, go through. If you have any questions, we'll be discussing this probably, during every meeting between now and then. So I won't make us go line by line through it tonight because I don't know, unless you want to. Anyone? Okay. So that was about it, guys. So, did I forget anything?
Any questions or input from council? And I will add that because our committee meetings are noticed and advertised and recorded, that any council that wishes to attend those is welcome to do so. Lonnie, did you have anything you wanted to add to budget discussions?
No, I'll have some updates though on the general fund, because I didn't add the Hoffman contract.
Yeah, so that's a new element, so.
So
That's
that'll be,
where that was
Yeah.
coming from.
And then Lonnie's always great about updating the date of the budget, so that you know that you're reading the most
We
up-to-date
use
one
it as a
out there.
reference date.
So you're not grabbing an old one.
So 16, 17, so for now, we'll allocate 19. That's the 16 plus
I
the
was gonna
25.
throw 20 in there just because it's
Yeah.
around.
You have my blessing to do 20. I will still come to council before we spend it.
Yeah.
But I think 20 is wise. All right, anything else from admin and finance?
Did I forget anything?
Any questions from the table for admin and finance that they may not have had a chance to address? All right, moving on to land use and planning. For this, we will go to Committee Chair Tupin, and also call your attention out to some handouts that were handed out at the beginning of the meeting that came out of the work session yesterday.
Exciting. So that's where we'll start. So we had worked with Jeremy Fadness with WWC to kind of help finalize and really bring the concepts and put them on paper and create a process. This is for the use of city-owned land, or the change of use of city-owned land on city-owned property. So essentially, community projects, everything as small as planting a bush to as big as a recreational facility, things of that nature. So we broke this down into 3 major application types. So we have the administrative type A, more of a minor application, something that can be handled within city staff. We have type B, which is a standard improvement, a partnership, things that may consist of an MOU, different reviews from different advisory boards and city staff, things that aren't overly permanent but could have some permanent capacities to them. And then type C, which is a major legacy project, which truly does change the shape and use of land within our city. So it's a pretty thorough process. Essentially, we'll start with the community projects on city-owned land, policy review, procedures, and application framework. This really does go through and break down what this process looks like for individuals who are applying, as well as for staff members for how they review that. It breaks down how you can classify each of these projects, examples of each, has what people will need through the application process, the different requirements, completeness reviews, as well as different advisory reviews. So really creates a full breadth of criteria, and we think it does a pretty good job of really identifying the impact that it might have within the community. And it also has a lot of requirements like public input and public comment. There's a lot of different facets. So just please, if you could, take a look at that. I don't want to have to go through it line by line with you guys, because we already did that numerous times with land use and planning. But yes, please take a look. And then The next document that you have is the community projects on city-owned property application packet. So this is really just the bullet points for what that application needs to look like. Realistically, the application size is going to vary dramatically. We didn't put in the fill in the blanks here because we're expecting pretty substantial dialogue, essentially, that will go within this. So,
Not yes or no?
yeah, not yes or no questions, not general, like, yeah, we have money, like, it's more detailed and thorough than that in most cases. But it does do a good job of identifying the project information, the classifications, the details, all of those types of things, site infrastructure impacts, operations and maintenance, public engagement, and then in the back, one of the really nice things is this table that has all the different attachments that are going to need to be included within these applications. So this will essentially be that guiding force for the city staff for when somebody comes in and has something that they would like to present to the council or to the city or do for the city. This is where we can start and really get that process rolling in the right direction. And then that way everything's being handled consistently. And though the different scale may change based off the size of project, we're still going through that same review process as needed. So
Even if it's something small, you still want one of these applications.
Exactly.
If it's a A,
Yep.
type A.
Type A, yep.
But a
We'll
lot of
have
this may be NA, and it's like
Yeah.
no electrical service or.
Right, again, if this is, I'm putting in a bench and I don't, expect this bench to last for the next 100 years, it's more for the next 2 weeks while my aunt is in town and I want her to feel special and then we'll get rid of it after she goes. Whatever that might look like. Examples are examples, that's what it could be. I'm giving you guys all holiday ideas. You memorial bench, Auntie, and then you just get rid of it. Anyhow, not getting too sidetracked. But yes, so any different application, any scale, whether it's a small project or a large project, it will start here. And again, the thickness of this packet will change based off the depth of the process, so.
I will add that even though this process is not yet complete, from an executive standpoint, we have been trying to follow it as best we understand it. So, at this point, one of the things that came out of the meeting yesterday when this document was completed, is we've sent it on to the tennis folks. And so they will, because we expect that one to be moving forward probably rather quickly for approval here. Most of this stuff has kind of been done and it was, provided to them as let's double check and make sure we haven't missed anything. And I think that's where,
that's gonna be the next.
Councilmember Tupin's probably gonna go next, so let me not steal the thunder from that.
Next section of the conversation. So essentially, that is the next process, or next part. Since we have this in place, and obviously it's still not finalized, we want council to review as well as general public, any more feedback. We've tried to take all the feedback that has been presented and incorporate it into this document over the past year. So really hope that we've done a pretty good job of covering all bases, but please, by all means, would love to get this actually finalized here very soon so it can be in a work. But in terms of the tennis project, next up on the list, is the tennis courts are getting pretty close to having everything finalized. They have put in a substantial amount of work, fundraising, and have really done everything that we have asked. And one of the things that we have come to is, okay, they're getting close. There's a few more pieces that they need, but we'd like to be able to move forward with actually approving or denying their application for that use. So we gave them the direction at this point to essentially fill out this application. So they have this packet, and we've gone through the checklist in the back, and most of these items have been completed or can be completed here in the very near future. So we feel comfortable that we get these things put together, go through that application process, and have that presented. With that, we did suggest that it would be a type C project, a legacy project, because it is pretty substantial, long-term, large-scale changes to the land. So part of that is a public hearing process, and you'll see that in this policy and procedures under number 10, public engagement and hearings. For type C, there is requirement for public notice as well as a public comment period of at least 30 days. Community meetings and open house, which I believe they've already done. Opportunity for advisory review, which I know they've already done. and then a public hearing before the council. So that is one thing that they are gonna hopefully get this application into us by the end of the week. And then from there, once it's received, we'll put that public notice out there. We'll have the first review of the application at our next meeting, and that will be at a council-wide review. And then at the following meeting, we should have the ability to actually take action on that application. So, kind of shows it's a little bit of a test run, but I think that on a whole, it should be a good example of if this works, if it draws any red flags. So, yeah.
May I add
Yeah.
something? In your packet, you will see that there's actually a resolution that I would like to have up for action next time that authorizes the mayor to basically accept a grant from the Tennyson Foundation. Again, it's not a committed of funds, so probably the case could be made that we really don't need to wait, but you know me, I like to cover the bases, and so I'd like to put that action forward that basically says, I can sign something that says, yes, we will take your money if you give it to us. So that's the first of a potential couple of resolutions I see. That one I'd like to have for action at the next meeting. And then as Councilmember Tupin indicated, probably 2 different resolutions up for action in the immediate near future. The first is just council's permission to accept their application, move and say, yes, you can move forward with using this parcel of land to do tennis courts on. The second resolution at that point would be to authorize an MOU. That MOU would be a 3-part MOU. It basically gives them the ability to build it. And one of the things that came up through this process is you have the maintenance agreement before you dig the first shovel of ground. Yeah. And so that second or third resolution would be authorizing the MOU, which describes, yes, go ahead and start building. And then here's what the maintenance looks like. The other thing that would be different there is by that point, when we do that second, it's okay to use and go out for bid. And then that third resolution would be after the bid comes in, and it would, in my mind, it would probably say something like, you have permission to proceed with building once you've demonstrated that you have the funds to actually complete the project, now that we know what the real number is rather than a fake number, because at that point, it would have gone out for bid and come back.
The other piece with that is those MOUs, resolutions, as mentioned, those will be included in that application packet. And honestly, that might be something, because we do have, when you look at the attachment section, there's letters of support, public engagement summaries, budgets, operations plans and budgets, but we should actually include MOUs and resolutions to where that way they can take on that additional piece, and that can be included in the application. So that way for us to review it, it should be a little bit more simple.
Are you gonna take that note with your pen so you remember it?
So do you want them writing a resolution?
I mean, I don't mind them putting together a sample, and that's one thing that we actually had the discussion on, at our land use and planning meeting, is what is now gonna stem from this documentation. Is we're gonna have example MOUs, example resolutions that can be accessed and utilized by city staff, essentially, where this can get presented. Where that way the city council isn't always being held responsible and held up on putting together resolutions and MOUs, and we can have a little bit more consistency. So if that's coming from a city staff position rather than a city council position, you see fewer inconsistencies, as well as.
So who would write the resolution, the applicant or the city staff?
I think that it would go through city staff. And again, I think that they could essentially have that, we don't have this finalized yet.
Okay.
So, but I think this is something that
I just get a little leery about a citizen writing a resolution because
I would like to be staff, but the problem is we've got to get to that staff first. Right now, what we're doing is we have been enlisting those user groups wanting to use it. Here's a template, go customize it for you.
Right.
Just so that we don't become the weak link as volunteers.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that's kind of what I was leaning to, is that you have these example pieces that they could go through and make a draft. It would go to city staff for them coming back to us, until a city staff member can just be writing those. But yeah, I think that having those templates and those pieces in place to where it is consistent is crucial, and again, something that can be reviewed ahead of time by attorneys, et cetera, and again, those staff members that it's most likely going to affect. So, but I think that those are items that need to come with this packet, so then we're not being held up another 2 weeks when we now have to draft that, bring it back, review it. It should all come together in one clean packet that we can review. That's and then that way, when we are reviewing it, we can make our edits as a council versus necessarily having it come back and come back and come back.
Would you have to have a resolution for every project?
In terms
Yes,
of,
every project would have its own resolution.
No, I mean, like because which ones go to type A doesn't go to council, right?
type A would not go to council.
So you would not need a resolution for type A? Okay, thank you.
And again, there's gonna be certain things within these applications that aren't
Okay.
necessarily, required, and there, you can even see that in attachments, there's certain items that say not required for type 1 or
Okay.
type A.
Thank you.
So we do have to change that language too.
Okay.
Edits.
Other-
So again, still a draft. But in terms of the timeline for tennis, I think this does give us a good opportunity to kind of test run this and, hopefully also get them into the situation to where they can start actually getting this moving forward for them. They've put in a lot of work, and I think they've done a lot of due diligence that has been requested of them and been patient while we're working on this too, so.
And to me, that the timeline's actually right about what we talked about a year ago when we started this process. I think we're actually fairly close to it. But specifically, I think at the next meeting, I'd like to have that resolution for action that says, yes, we'll take your money. And then at the following meeting after that, I'd like to think, actually, no, because we'll have to, that'll be at the end of 30 days before we award the project. So when that 30-day period is up, that we're able to come back and say, okay, yes, we approve you, go ahead and go out for bid.
Well, and that's actually good because we're not voting on the budget until the end of August, and what we had budgeted for them, it hasn't been approved yet.
Yeah,
So it'll all come together.
Yeah, good timing.
yeah.
Across the board. So again, I'm pretty stoked with what Jeremy's put together. I think he really took what we had and made it a real piece, and it's good.
Any other questions from the table for land use and planning? All
Thank you
right.
for all that work on that, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy.
Is council okay if I take, questions or input from the public on this?
Yeah. Just have a question.
Will you step forward and state your name just for the record?
Roger Mullendorf, resident of Red Lodge and chairman of the Parks Board. We have a small subcommittee, myself and one other member of our board and a private citizen, working on putting together a template for an MOU. And we've had one meeting, but I think we've made quite a bit of progress on that, because we're aware that, there could be at least 3 or 4 different types of, MOUs. One just for the use of land, one could be for developing it, one could be for management, and then one could be that cover all 3 of those areas. How soon do you think you're going to be looking at the MOU? Because I can forward the template that we're working on for the review with your committee, if you'd like to see that.
That'd be cool.
I think we're to the point that the next meeting would be totally appropriate.
Yeah, because I think our next meeting, we'll be reviewing the resolution to actually approve this, and that's one thing that we also got from Jeremy, which is another example, MOU, so I love that, that's great.
That next
That's
meeting is
something that-
when? What's the date for that?
2 weeks from tomorrow, no, yesterday, 2 weeks from yesterday.
And again, that resolution, in fairness, will not be up for action until after the 30-day
Yeah.
period has concluded.
Sure.
So we've got a little bit of time there, but we should have a draft of it. It would be nice to have a draft of that, and that would be the MOU that says you can go out and get a bid.
Right.
And then the next step is we can start to work with that MOU that says you can move on the bid and what's your maintenance plan as you go into that.
Do you think we really need an MOU? Wouldn't a resolution work for going out to bid alone?
If possibly, let's look at it.
Is it-
It might be,
because-
MOUs are not a bad thing.
But typically MOUs kind of last, several years.
Not necessarily.
I mean, they don't have to,
We've had MOUs, like the one we have for Red Lodge Ice right now is not a several years, it's just for the project of
Okay,
going out and getting a
okay,
PAR.
well, that makes sense. I mean, I think we should try to be as consistent as possible.
Agreed.
I'm not sure we'll have anything at that time, but what we could do is we could have Luke Russell is on the board, and he's,
Yeah.
kind of heading that up. I can see if he can attend the meeting. I think 2 weeks from now I'm gonna be out of town.
Okay, don't leave just yet. Barb, I see you've got a camera on. Did you have something you wanted to add or a question you wanted to ask for the process? You're on mute still if you're trying to.
I
there
was
you go.
working on it. I was working on it. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very exciting that the process has come together, and I'm glad that our effort has paralleled that and appears now as a result that's consistent with that. So yes, we'll go ahead and go through that application process and make sure that we've dotted all our I's and crossed our T's as well. So that's very exciting for us and for the city. And we can help. Roger, call on us if you want help with working on MOUs that it's appropriate for us to do. And I had only one question, and that is maybe it's for Jody or Dave, but on the budget situation. So these grant funds that the city is going to be accepting for the tennis courts, do you need to add that in to have authority to spend?
Lonnie, did you understand the question? As we accept money, so when you think about the pool, did we add the donation money and stuff to the budget? Yeah. So the answer is yes, and then the secondary part of that is that sometimes we have to do budget amendments when things like this come up after we've done the budget. So it's not like, oops, it came in after the fact, we can't do it. It just means it's an extra process and paperwork to get there.
Okay, great.
But
Yeah.
a good point to raise, thank you.
Yeah. No, so we appreciate everybody's work on all of this, and we're in there to work with you guys however we need to. So thanks. But Dave, you wanted that back by Friday? I'm not in town until Friday afternoon.
Get it back to
Monday.
us as quick. The benefit of getting it in by the end of the week or very early next week is if we were to run that ad in the paper.
Yeah.
Next week, that needs to be in by end of day Monday or very, very early Tuesday.
Okay.
And the only
Beginning of
difference
next
is
week.
that's when that 30-day, if we miss that, then the 30-day counter just starts a week later, which is not the end of the world.
Might be. So beginning of next week. Okay, thanks. Oh, sorry. Great.
But yes,
That's it.
you can have someone there at the meeting.
Sure.
I think that's a great direction, because I know that Jeremy Fadness with WWC made it sound like we didn't necessarily need an MOU template because each one is so different, but I personally think that it'd be very beneficial to have just your baselines, and then you have additional provisions that you can add after the
In
fact.
broad categories of what should be in the,
And
the
it may not
template.
even be templates, it may be a collection of the ones we've approved to just match it against, to
Sure.
make sure they're consistent. And after you do 5 or 10 of them, then you can say, this was consistent in every one of them. We call that a template.
Yeah.
And the other comment I want to make, I think the policy is an excellent policy. It's very well done. It's lays it out really well, and I like the way it separates the different types of categories, type A, B, and C. So good work on that.
We're really excited about how that
Thank
turns
you.
out.
Bet.
All right, I'll go ahead and bring discussion back to the table. Any other questions for land use and planning? All right. Public Works, and we didn't have Mike this week, but for that, I'm going to look to Committee Chair Ronning. Did you have anything you wanted to discuss or share that's still ahead of us? We don't need to discuss the stuff that's behind us.
I don't think so. We mainly discussed garbage and bears and, and parking. Yeah, so we've already pretty much discussed it all. So did you have any updates from Mike that you wanted to go over, other than we still have, I think, 3 crews of COP Construction in town and KR Civil?
Yeah, we have a lot of, the one thing that I will add is
and-
I did get some feedback this week that some folks who've been going out and monitoring the projects online and going out and seeing what the dates and stuff were, if you notice that the date is more than a week old on the update you're looking at, try clearing your cache and cookies on the browser. What's happened is some browsers think they're being really intelligent and they're not going out and getting the latest copy of that file. So I think those have all been updated at least weekly. Danae's doing a fantastic job of getting the updates that Mike is getting her online. So if you aren't seeing that, double check and make sure it's not a technology thing. Maybe go into a different browser to see if it's there.
I think the last update,
June
yeah,
29th, is
that was the last update, June 29th.
Okay. Yep.
So it's like 2 weeks, but yeah.
Is asphalt crews, is that still end of July? Is that Just curious for the,
The dates, when I chatted with Mike, he said the dates we were looking at were all still current and accurate. All right, public health and safety, and for that, we will look to Committee Chair Daniels.
Yeah, we actually had a pretty quick meeting, the two of us and Chief. He did go over his monthly report for June. Not a lot exciting happening on his end, so, which is a good thing. We talked about bear safety and bear activity, be diligent, with everything. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. It was a quick meeting.
I will point out that this being the first meeting of the month, there is an end-of-month report in the packet that has all of the calls for services. That's what the CFS stands for, is the calls for service. So that breakdown is in the packet. Any other questions for public health and safety? Did I let you finish?
Yeah, no, it was
Well, I just will say that Cynthia and I both did go to the Business Alliance meeting, and we just brought up the concerns that some citizens have had with employees or, you know, parking on Broadway, and that it's not the city's. We have a 4-hour parking ordinance, and, you know, we're not planning on changing that so that employees can't park on Broadway. So if that, you know, they want to get that word out, that they would appreciate that not happening, that, you know, we'd appreciate it if the business would police themselves if they want to keep that unwritten rule. And we did reiterate that it's only 4-hour parking on Broadway and the side streets to the alley. So, and if someone the mayor did bring up, if someone is parked there for longer than 4 hours, you can call the non-emergent number, and they very well, you know, file a complaint, and they will be asked to move or get a ticket or a warning.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Any other questions for public health and safety? All right. Is there anything else that council would like to add on the radar for future discussion and action?
not for future discussion.
Councilmember,
I didn't see it.
Davis, and then I'll come back to Councilmember Battles.
I just, wanted to update on the Pecannery tour that was offered to council members. It could still be available if anybody wants to. We can get you connected to the right person. I've been on the tour, I don't know, probably maybe other of you have been on the tour, but Brian, Hannah, and Mike Maples have been on the tour. So they always have an open invitation to get council out there, or the mayor out there, to do a tour of that. So just let me know if you're interested, and I'll get you connected. And then there was the letter from the AAA, which might be later, but I did have someone reach out about the roundabout, if we were accepting input for ideas on the roundabout. And so I did talk to Councilmember Ronning about it, and just kind of replied to them, told them that we've been looking at it in the budget, I guess, for the community entrance, and Mike Maples would be a good resource. I think you also said Parks Board.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
would be a
did you
place to
include
start.
Parks Board to reach out, because Parks Board is looking at that also.
Yes, yeah, so, and that the budget hasn't been approved, but they're looking at, that area to approve or repair and maintain as well. So, just hasn't been approved yet, so I wanted to share that.
Coming back to Councilmember Battles, did you have something you wanted to add to the radar for future?
I just wanted to put it on the radar that I won't be able to make the next meeting. I'll be in Boise for a work trip.
But you work for the state of Montana.
Yeah.
I know.
Occasionally they send it out.
I know. I'm like, wow.
All right, and I think that probably falls, yeah. So correspondence and additional items kind of can blend in there. Anything else for the radar or correspondence while we're at it? All right, hearing none, as we bring our meeting to a close, we'd like to end with one last opportunity for public comment. This is the public's opportunity to be heard on anything within the council's purview. So we'll go ahead and open that at this time. Seeing no activity in the room, let me turn my attention to online and look for unmuted mics, cameras coming on, or raised hands. Calling for public comment going twice. calling for public comment going 3 times. We will go ahead and close public comment. Let me add my thank you to all of the public who has come and continues to come to our meetings. It's nice to have that input, and we appreciate that. And with that, having completed the agenda, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
No,
Hey, what time is it?
7:15.